All right, so welcome back to QuickBooks Online, Chapter 10, Inventory, okay? So again, when we went through our setup process, right, in Chapter 2, we had to determine what products and services that we provide to our consumers, right? But ultimately, we had to decide what type of products, right? Because services, there's no need for inventory for services, right? We had to determine the products that we sell. Do we choose to keep track of it, or do we choose not to keep track of it? At the end of the day, when we are using the tracking method, we are ultimately creating inventory, okay? So especially when you're using an inventory item where we're keeping a really close track record of everything that we purchase, we sell, right? We purchase, we sell, we return, or we sell, or someone return it back to us. And then on top of that, also determining a non-inventory item, which means you do sell the item, but you don't really necessarily keep a good track record of it, where you don't care to know how many items you have on hand at all times. Which is okay, because if, again, I gave many examples of what a non-inventory part can look like, right? For instance, you sell cameras, the very expensive cameras. You know you have 5 on the shelf, and you can see, right? Okay, I haven't sold a camera often because that's not something that consumers need all the time. So in this case, that is something that you don't necessarily have to keep track of in terms of inventory, okay? However, that is this entire chapter of looking at how we are able to keep track of it, how are we able to identify our products that we are selling and keeping a good track record of it, and what are the necessary steps to obtain the inventory items, okay? And how do we sell it? Or how do we get rid of our inventory, okay? So that's where we're going to go ahead and dive into here for chapter 10. So first thing we're going to talk about is we need to first set up our settings for inventory, okay? So in this case, we need to go back to our gear icon and ensure that all of these options are turned on, okay? So in this case, we're going to go to my gear icon and we're going to go to the products and services under the sales tab, okay? So that's first thing here is we're going to go to my settings icon, okay? Or my gear icon. We're going to go to account settings and we're going to go to our sales section, okay? All right. All right, so under products and services, here we go. These are the things that we want to turn on. Show products and services columns on our sales forms. Of course, we need to know what we sell, right? If you have a SKU number or some kind of barcode system that you use for keeping track of your inventory, then maybe having a SKU number is necessary. But in this case, we're going to have it turned off, okay? What are price levels or price rules, okay? So price rules are going to be if you have specific customers that you charge specific price points at. So for instance, again, if you have commercial customers versus residential customers, you would probably charge your commercial customers a higher price for your services versus your residential, right? So in this case, this is going to be optional. You can turn it on if you choose to serve a specific niche for your consumers, right? If you have specific people that you're trying to target, you can go ahead and do that. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and skip over that. And then it says right here, do you want to keep track of quantity and price/rates? Absolutely. That's going to be very, very necessary, especially for inventory. And of course, track inventory quantity on hand. Absolutely. Yes, we need to have that on. Okay. And then you're going to go ahead and click save. Okay. So now let's go ahead and identify our products and services, because we're going to create a few more items that we're going to go ahead and go through the inventory process, where we're going to create our products, right? And we're going to go ahead and purchase them, and so on and so forth. So we have some inventory on hand, okay? So the first thing we're going to do here is go ahead and exit out of your settings here. And we're going to go ahead and locate my inventory center. Where would that be? Well, that would be where your sales are, right? You could either you could either roll your mouse over and go to your products and services list, or again, you could go to gear icon and go to products and services, right? This is where you get to see your inventory center, which we've seen a few times before, right? It allows us to identify what items that we have on hand, right? But it also gives us like a little warning sign saying, hey, you got something that's low and you need to reorder, or you have something that's out of stock. So that's what's really nice about using this QuickBooks online application, is if you have those inventory items, it kind of gives you a little heads up saying, hey, warning, you don't have any inventory on hand. Okay, so that's a cool feature that QuickBooks does for you, so you always have inventory on hand at all times, so you're able to sell to your customers, right? You definitely don't want to sell products to your customers if you don't have it in stock, right? And then you would have to send out a, sorry, we're out of stock kind of situation, right? So you want to make sure that when you're deciding whether your product is something that you want to keep track of, then that is where you're going to see this column right here, where you have an quantity on hand column. So if you scroll down, you're going to see that here are a few items that you has designated as inventory items versus a non-inventory item. And it tells you right here, right? So non-inventory items will not have an inventory on hand, okay? Will not have, okay? Because you don't care to keep track of it. You only care to keep track of the sales portion, okay? But here, for anything that is a priority or a must, because it's an item that you constantly sell, which you determine as an inventory item, has the inventory quantity on hand, okay? So that's the huge difference between the two. So let's go ahead and create our products and services, right? So this is another quick overview lesson in chapter 2, right, where we created our products and services list. Now we're going to go ahead and add a few more items on here. So again, top right, you're going to click on new, and then we're going to go ahead and click on either or inventory or non-inventory, depending on what you're choosing to, how you're going to keep track of the items. In this case, we're going to be creating all of these inventory items, right? Because we want to keep track of it. So the first one we're going to do is a frame 8 by 8.5 by 11 black, which is going to be a product for the store. We have 0 currently on hand, and our reorder point is going to be 25. When we sell the products, it's going to be sales of product income for $37.99. That's our sales price, and it's going to be 100% taxable. Now again, we're also going to create a two-sided item where we're linking our expense directly to this income. So therefore, we're also going to be linking that we purchased this from Ogaga Photo Supply for $19.99. Now remember, your cost price, right, is what it costs you to purchase those items, right? Your selling price is what you want to sell to your consumers for a higher price, which includes amount of profit percentage, right? How you determine your selling price is going to be based on what you want to sell your price for, right? Because ultimately the goal is you want to make a profit. So you need to make sure you make a price that's higher than what you purchased it, right? So you have to identify cost. Now, cost will not always be the same, just like your selling price, right? Especially because of supply and demand. We talked about this a few times in the lessons. Supply and demand will change the fact of how much your cost is. So again, if there is a high demand in an item, but there's low resources. So for instance, maybe your bronze or your gray ones or your black ones, maybe the materials that are made for it is scarce. So that means the cost of it to produce it will be higher, right? But if there's abundance of the materials, then the cost will be significantly low. Okay, so again, this also has to do with that when you designate a cost here, it doesn't always stay the same. Okay, it's due to supply and demand, right? All right, and of course, you want to make sure you do cost of goods sold as supplies and materials. So let's go ahead and plug in our first one here. So what is the name of my item? I said it's going to be the frame. Frame 8.5 by 11 black. Okay. And we said category is going to be products. Okay. Class is going to be store. Okay. Right. Initial quantity on hand. So this is where we say that we don't have any items on hand. And it says as of the date. So, of course, you're going to need to identify what date. So I'm going to go ahead and put the very beginning of January. Okay, of 2022. Okay, and what's my reorder point? So I need to make sure that I have enough quantity on hand. So my reorder point is 25 units. Okay. So then now that I filled out that section, it's going to definitely be an inventory asset because, again, we're purchasing our assets and then when we sell it, so we own it until we sell it. Okay. Description, again, you could go ahead and say picture frame 8.5 by 11 black. Okay. All right. Sales price. So again, I'm gonna sell it for $37.99 for sales of product income. Right. It is going to be 100% taxable. Okay. And then now this is where I'm going to go ahead and link my expense account to this as well. Like where do I purchase my items from or who? Okay, and what does it cost me? So I just copied and paste for the description. So the cost to me is $19.99 for the cost of goods sold, but I want it to be specific for supplies and materials. Okay. For supplies and materials. Okay, and who is the person that I purchase these from normally? I go ahead and put Ogaga. Now, because I'm designating a specific vendor for this specific product, that means if I were to pull up their account when I go ahead and do a purchase order, it should give you the options to have those things listed on there. Now, again, not everybody has the same supplier. So in this case, if it's not something that you designate to a specific person, you can go ahead and leave this line blank, right? Because again, especially if you are in the means of trying to find the lowest cost, maybe you have multiple vendors that you purchase the same item from, okay? So if that's the case, then you want to leave this section blank, okay? So once everything looks good, right? Okay, I can go ahead and click Save Anew. Now, because I've done that, boom, it automatically identified that I have 0 on hand, which means I am out of stock and I'm low in quantity. So therefore, it's flagging me and letting me know that I have to purchase more of those 8.5 by 11 black picture frames, okay? So, of course, I'm also able to find it right here. Oh, that's my frame. Frame. Right here, frame 8.5 by 11 black. Right there, 0. Okay? So let me go ahead and put in the other two, the bronze and the gray. So everything is similar in nature. Only difference is for my bronze, I actually sell it at $35.99. Okay? And it cost me $18.99. Okay, so again, frame 8.5 by 11 bronze. Okay. Category, once again, is products. Class is going to be store because you're going to most likely sell these products in store. Same thing, it's going to be 0 on hand, but and you have this as of January 1st. Okay. And your reorder point is also 25. Okay. Description, let me see. Bronze. Okay. Your selling price is $35.99. For sales of product income, okay, it is taxable. Again, you're going to go ahead and put in your description. So what is this description for? This description is for when you have a sales form, you're able to, this is the description that you're going to allow your customers to see. So it's very important that you do fill out a description. Again, it is optional to you. If you think it's straightforward, then it's unnecessary. But some customers like to see the actual full description of what they're buying. So again, right, and this time you only purchase them for $18.99, and you want it as cost of goods sold for materials. Supplies and materials, okay? And again, you're going to purchase this from Ogaga Photo Supply. Right? And then next. So last one we have here is to add your gray one in here. So everything is also the same. Only difference is let's see. The only difference is your gray is going to be priced at $34.99, and you purchase it at $18.49. Okay. So again, category is products, class is store. Okay. 0 for quantity on hand. $25 is your reorder point. Your description is going to be picture frame. Okay. Gray. Price point is $34.99, which is of sales of product income. It's taxable. Description once again. But this time it cost you $18.49. Okay, and once again, this is going to be for supplies and materials. Okay, and it's going to be once again Ogaga Supplies. Okay, so now that I have all my 3 products in here, right? So let me go ahead and locate them. So here they are. my picture frame, 8.5 by 11, black, bronze, and gray. Okay, so I have all three of them in here, currently all at 0 quantity on hand. Okay, all right. So then let's see what's next. We also want to put another item in here for the non-inventory part, where we want to go ahead and put a custom frame too. So we allow our customers to go ahead and purchase our frames custom. Okay. So we can allow our customers to actually purchase custom frames with their custom dimensions and custom woods and things like that. So in this case, we're going to create that one more item here, but this time it's going to be non-inventory because again, a custom frame is going to be based on what the customer wants, right? So in this case, it's going to be based on what the customer wants. So I'm going to go ahead and put custom frame. Okay. Once again, it is a product that you sell. Okay, you sell this in the store. Okay, description here, custom framing. Sales of price. Now in this case, right, for custom framing, because it depends on the size of the frame, the type of materials that they want, that the customer wants, you don't have an exact number or an exact sales points, right? Because again, it also depends on when you purchase those items or have a special request. It's going to determine what you are requesting. So again, if you're getting something that's gold, obviously that's going to be much more expensive than something that is like, a synthetic or, cheaper metal, right? So in this case, custom framing is going to be one of those things where you are going to have to adjust the sales price based on the custom order, right? Based on what you purchase it for. Now, if you remember from chapter 9, right, which is the last thing that we just did here, right, you are also have the ability to mark up your price by 50%, okay? So therefore, yes, if it cost you X amount of dollars, you could just go ahead and do a quick calculation to mark it up by 50% to go ahead and determine what that sales price is. Okay? But in this case, we do not have one here, but just making sure that you guys are aware, especially for the custom framing, right? You're unaware of how much that's going to cost you unless you have a flat rate. Okay? So in this case, no price here, but it is a sales of product income. It is taxable. And of course, you also want to make sure that you click here because this is ultimately going to create your two-sided item, which we took a look in chapter 9, right? We created the custom background. This is more or less the same concept here, okay? But this time we're doing custom framing. Okay? And again, cost is going to be determined, and we need to make sure this is a materials. So supplies and materials account. And once again, we're most likely going to get our frames from Ogaga Photo Supply. Okay. So there you go. Now notice this. When I created the non-inventory item, my numbers have not adjusted. Why? Because remember, a non-inventory item is something that we choose not to keep track of in terms of how many quantity we have on hand. Because in this case, how often are we going to sell a custom frame? It's going to be based on the per customer situation, right? So in this case, we do not have to keep a track record of our custom framings because in this case it's right here. So custom framing, custom frame, right here, quantity on hand, there's nothing there because it's not an item that you sell often. Okay? So there you go, that is that. So let's go ahead and dive into purchase orders. How do we actually obtain the items that we need? Now, in this case, in chapter 4, we got to take a look that, yes, you can create an expense item, right? Because if you're going to buy it right then and there and charge your credit card or pay with your with your checking account or something, you can use the expenses form to say, I'm going to purchase it right then and there, right? And your only thing that you have to do is make sure that you have it under products and services on the form instead of a category, right? But in this case, another way that you can also keep a better track record is if you have purchase orders, okay? Now, purchase orders is going to be something that is exclusive to the Plus edition of QuickBooks, especially when you can create that from an estimate. But in this case, it is going to be special because, again, the purchase orders only arrives when you have inventory, which is going to be only exclusive to the Plus subscription plus the advanced subscription, okay? So anything prior to that, so your essentials and your start, you're not going to have the ability to do purchase orders, okay? This is only something that is for the Plus and the advanced subscription, okay? So what is a purchase order? Now, here's something that we have to understand about purchase orders. This is going to be considered a non-posting transaction. Why is that? Because all you're simply doing is you're just requesting the vendor that you want to purchase these items. Now, the situation is, number one, no transaction has occurred because all you're simply doing is asking the vendor, can I buy this? Okay? And the vendor is going to reply to you, yes, I have the items available on stock, right? And second of all is, did they send you a bill? Did they say, hey, yes, I'm going to go ahead and ship it out to you? Then that becomes an actual transaction. But in this case, oftentimes purchase orders, right, if the other vendor has the ability to have it on stock, then they'll go ahead and send out those items. But then again, you're also going to come into the situation, once again, supply and demand. You are not the only person who is purchasing from this vendor, especially if this vendor is well known, their brand is, very popular. Maybe supply and demand can be a downside for you where they might not have the available items on stock. So that means they can't ship you out what you requested, right? So oftentimes a purchase order is it's going to be considered a non-posting transaction because what it is just a request for purchasing those items. And if they have it, they'll send it out and they'll send a bill with it. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and create our first purchase order here, okay, by going to our popular, our best friend here, the plus new icon, and go ahead and create my purchase order for the Agago photo supply for March 1st, okay, and it's going to be purchase order number 101, and it's going to be overhead. Why? Because this one is, we're not just buying the items for just a particular store, right? We're buying it for both of the stores, okay? And yeah, so let's go ahead and do that, and we're going to go ahead and put in a request for the black, bronze, and gray. We want 50 of each one, okay? And again, it's going to be for $2,873. So let's go ahead and enter in our purchase order. So again, you're going to click on that new icon under vendors. You'll have purchase orders, okay? So there you go. Now this is my purchase order form. Very, 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 very similar to just filling out any form, right? Especially what your expenses form. The only difference is, remember, this is a non-posting transaction. You're just requesting for the items. There is no proof of a transaction, right? You didn't pay them, and they didn't send you the items yet. So in this case, vendor, we said it was gonna be Ogaga. Okay. All right. Ship to date we said was going to be March 1st. Okay, so March 1st. Okay. Do we have a sales rep that's linked to this? It's up to you if you want, if a specific sales rep is responsible to make these purchase orders or not. But usually you're most likely going to have a person who's going to be solely for just purchasing only. Okay? So whether there is a person or not, that is up to your discretion whether you want to put that in there or not. Okay? Now ship via, right? We want to make sure it ships to the store. Okay. And once again, this is not the San Jose location. This is for overhead. It's going to apply to both of the stores. Okay. All right. And let's see. This is for retail, right? We're buying it so we can sell it in store. Okay. And let's see. We're going to go ahead and list out our products and services right now. So in this case, we need to have the first one, which is going to be the 8.5, okay, for the black, okay. We want the 8.5 for the bronze, and we want the 8.5 for the gray. Okay. And we want to have quantity 50 each. So we got 50 of the black, we want 50 of the bronze, and we want 50 of the gray. Now notice this. Because I've already filled my information ahead of time when I set up my products and services, it automatically pulled out all of my cost rates. So remember, I purchased the black picture frames for $19.99. I purchased my bronze for $18.99, and I purchased my gray for $18.49. It already has listed that out for me. So again, that's what will help you save some extra time there. And because I put my quantities in there, it automatically calculated what that was for me. And there you go. Right? So then now I just have to ensure that everything looks good for $2,873.50. So everything looks good. I can go ahead and save and close. Okay? So boom, there you go. It has automatically saved it. Now notice this. How come my inventory has not changed? Once again, we just requested for the items. We did not actually purchase them, okay? So we have not yet received our items. Okay, so that's how easy it is. That's what you do. Now, they do recommend you to use the purchase orders so you can keep a better track record of making your purchases, right? So especially when you are buying inventory, they just say it's best to do that because the easy feasibility to transfer the information over is going to be way quicker and way easier, okay? So that is doing the purchase order there. Okay? So we're also going to do another purchase order, right? We're going to go ahead and purchase our custom framing, okay? We're going to order one of them for a total of $125 to Veronica Vasquez. So if you remember from chapter 9, she did the marketing photo session, right? So maybe she's like, now it is March 15. I'd like to have a custom frame for my company photo headshot or something. Like in this case, maybe you took a whole staff photo, right? So maybe she wants to have one of those. So in this case, let's go ahead and create that purchase order for Veronica and have the custom frame for $125. Okay. So once again, I'm going to go here, right? I could either go here or I could actually go to Veronica's profile and create a purchase order there. Okay. Let me see. If I go to all sales, okay. right? You could go to new transactions and be able to payment estimates. Okay, so I don't have it there. So plus new purchase orders. Ogaga supplies once again. Ogaga photo supply. But today's date is the 15th of March. Okay. Once again, this was specific to the San Jose. Okay. We're going to do, hers is corporate. Okay. And then the product that she wanted was the custom frame. Custom framing. Okay. Quantity 1. And here, this is what I was telling you. You get to adjust the cost price for $125. But remember, from chapter 9, we are able to link this to Miss Veronica Vasquez, right? And that means I get to mark up her price 50%. Okay? There you go. And everything looks good. For $125 is what's going to cost me. But I can upcharge her. Remember that. Okay? So once everything looks good, I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. Okay? So then now, okay, how do I go ahead and record that I have to receive the items, right? Now in this case, oftentimes there could be a possibility where your vendor may request for a deposit. So again, this is just a way for vendors, or if you're a customer, or you're the person who's providing the services, right? You may require this because if they're purchasing something that's over like $500, you definitely don't want to miss out on, in case that person decides to, cancel their order, right? And you've done all this work for this. Now, in this case, oftentimes this is also known as like a down payment, right? When you buy a car, they require a down payment, right? Or some sort of insurance that you are committing to purchasing an item. So oftentimes a vendor deposit is possible, right? Especially when you're buying things from, or buying in large quantities or in bulk. That is a huge commitment. And are you able to buy something? For instance, that whole entire purchase order was $2,873. Is a company going to let you go ahead and validate that, ship you the items, and end up losing that opportunity for that $2,873? Oftentimes, most likely not. They'll always have you pay upfront 50% of the order upfront, and then they'll expect you to pay the remaining amount afterwards. So that's called a vendor deposit. So you have a vendor deposit, and if you remember from chapter 9, we also looked at a customer prepayment. When a customer pays us in advance, right? A down payment for their services that they requested. So this is going to be looking at a vendor deposit. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and write a check to Ogaga Photo Supplies, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make a payment, okay, for the down payment on that purchase order, right? The purchase order for that custom frame, right? Because in this case, we can buy the picture frames at the size that they've already offered to us. But in this case, they're requesting us to put a 50% down payment because I'm making a special order for Veronica, right? So that means that's a commitment, right? Because if they decide to produce this picture frame, right, and we decide to cancel last minute, they're not going to be too mad about it because they got 50% of the money already. So that's usually what a deposit does, is it ensures the commitment to the order. And if you do cancel it, the company doesn't lose any money out of it, right? They only lose the labor, but at least they gain at least 50% of that order, right? So they're not taking a complete loss. So in this case, that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and send a check to Ogaga Photo Supplies, right, on the 15th, okay, to the San Jose location for the store and we're going to code it to accounts payable, right? Because in this case, we should be expecting a bill for this custom frame that we purchased for Ms. Vasquez, right? And we're going to go ahead and put it in for $62.50, right? Because that's half of $125, right? You can always do your quick math directly into the cell here. So let's go ahead and plug in our write our check here. So in this case, I'm going to go to my plus new icon. I'm going to click on checks, and we're going to go ahead and write that vendor deposit, excuse me. Okay. So once again, Ogaga Photo Supplies. Okay, Ogaga Photo Supply. We're going to be writing a check out of our checking account, and we're going to choose the option to print later because we're not going to assign a check number today. Okay, we'll do it later. We'll do it later. Okay, and it's going to be for March 15. Okay, for San Jose location, so good. And this is going to be corporate because, once again, we're making this purchase for Ms. Vasquez. And let's see, so the category, so remember, this is not a product or service that we are paying for. We are making a payment to and we're coding it to the accounts payable, meaning this is what we owe, right? We're making a payment to what we owe because this is what a down payment does, right? It decreases the amount of liability that you have. So accounts payable right here. Okay. Description is going to be 50% down payment on custom frame. Okay, if you have it, it'd be purchase order number, whatever it says, 102. Okay, and what was the amount? So once again, you could do your quick math. So this is 125 times 50%, which should give you a total of $62.50. Now, is this going to be billable? It is up to your discretion whether you're going to bill Ms. Vasquez, but in this case, this section here, because you're forwarding this won't affect Vasquez as well at all. Okay, it's only when you receive the bill is what you're going to bill her for. So in this case, you're not going to have her you're not going to have her pay for the down payment in this case, right? You're going to wait till you receive the bill and then have her just pay for the full amount. Okay? So again, class is once again store. Okay? Once everything looks good for that $62.50, we can go ahead and save and close. So notice on my drawer here, I have a lot of things that I have done with Ogaga Photo Supply. Okay? All right. So that is how you record a down payment. Now we'll see how you apply that down payment in a few minutes here. So then now that you've done that, let's go ahead and actually receive the inventory items, okay? So the very first thing we have here is we're actually going to go ahead and receive that custom frame that we purchased, right? So in this case, or we ordered. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and you have two options. You can either locate that purchase order and you can go ahead and either open it up or you go to more options to go ahead and locate that purchase order, and at the very top says copy to a bill. Okay, that's one of the options you can do. Okay, so in this case, I'm already at my sales here. So let's see if I can go to all sales. Let's see if I could find my purchase order. Okay, for okay, oh gaga. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm in sales. My bad. I need to be in expenses. Okay, expenses, that's where I'm going to go ahead and look at all of my expenses to locate my purchase. There it is. There's my purchase order. Sorry for that. So in this case, purchase order, right? We got 1,002 and we got 1,003. So in this case, numbers are off a little bit. So in this case, we want to go ahead and locate that $125. And right here, I'm going to go to more options, and you have the options to copy to a bill, or once again, you can actually open up this purchase order. Okay? And at the very top, you should be able to copy to a bill. Okay? So that's what I'm going to do. Since I'm already here, I'm going to go ahead and click on copy to a bill, and boom, it will fill in all the information for you. All you have to do is just toggle the dates. Okay, so in this case, let's say I received this custom order on the 22nd of March. Okay, a week later. Okay. Do I have a billing number? Bill number 4001. Okay, purchase order number 102, or this is 1003. For San Jose corporate, and it's for that custom frame. Now with that custom frame, I'm going to go ahead and mark it up. Okay. So here's the item that we purchased for the $125. We're definitely going to make it billable, and we're going to mark Miss Vasquez up 100 and so as you can see here, if I scroll over, it says we're going to bill this to Miss Vasquez, and it's going to be, excuse me, for $187.50, right? We marked it up 50%. Okay. So therefore, right, we can go ahead and send that bill along. Now, what about that down payment we made? Okay, that will go towards the bill once we end up sending that bill forward to Ms. Vasquez. It should be lowered, right? So in this case right here, we're going to send the bill, and then we're going to go ahead and select the credit for check for $62.50. So before we go ahead and fill that in, we're going to go ahead and write with that bill, okay? And we're going to go ahead and mark it as paid. So this is when we pay it. So remember, this is us sending the bill along, right? Or accepting the bill, right? But you only apply vendor credits or vendor credits or, vendor deposits when you pay. Okay, so that's something that you have to remember. Okay, so right now we're just accepting that we received a bill, okay, for $125. And then I'm going to go ahead and click save and close. So then on their end, now that I billed Ms. Vasquez, right, $187.50, they're just responsible to pay for that off. Now, in this case, if I choose to pay off the bill, right, because I've already done my vendor credit, so here's my bill for $4,001 for the Ogaga supplies, right, for $125, I'm going to go ahead and it says it gives me the option to schedule the payment, or I can mark as paid. So what's going to happen is, now that I pull this up, I have that bill for that $4,001 for the $125, right? And I'm going to go ahead and go down to credits and apply that $62.50. Now, in this case, I have two bills here for $4,001. So you want to make sure that you are not paying multiple bills. You're only paying one. So right here, this one is for the marketing supplies, the marketing photo shoot from the previous chapter, right? We never made a payment to them. So you want to make sure that you ensure that you're not going to make a payment for both of the bills, right? You're only going to pay the current one. So in this case, the current one was that $4,001, right, bill, right, for the $125. And this is where you're going to go ahead and apply that credit, right here for $62.50. So therefore, when you do pay, it's only for that $62.50, right? So that's how you're going to go ahead and identify that. And I'm just going to go ahead and save and close. So there you go. That's how you apply a vendor credit when you are, again, making a vendor deposit. Okay? So there you go. It reduced my bill in half because I've already made a payment to them ahead of time. That's how you have to do it. Now, of course, your statement that you receive from the company is going to show you that, yes, this is how much I charge you. Yes, this is how much you made a down payment for. So therefore, your total amount that you owe is the $62.50. So in this case, on a bill, it's kind of straightforward, but on QuickBooks, you have to make sure that you check off all those things that apply. Okay? All right. Any questions so far? So there you go. I received my custom frame. So now let's actually look at actually receiving my inventory. Okay? My actual inventory items. So how do I do so? Okay? So therefore, let's see. This is what you're going to do. You're going to do the same feature where you're going to locate that purchase order and you're going to copy it to a bill. Now, again, we made an example where oftentimes, due to supply and demand, right, there is a high chance that you're not going to receive all of your inventory at once, right? Because it's all about making sure that does the company have enough to supply you? And if they do not, then they're most likely going to ship you out what they can or what they have available on stock. Okay? So we call this the bottleneck situation where you have supply and demand, right? Even though you demanded 50 of them, they only have 25 available. So they're going to try to squeeze as much to get through. And then they're going to squeeze another one when it is available, right? And that's where it's going to bottleneck you because that means you're not going to have enough supplies for your customers. So again, supply and demand, it's a whole nother can of worms. But in this case, this is what can happen, right? And oftentimes, maybe you will get this, right? When you get multiple shipments of items, right, you're going to have a packaging slip that will always be with there. You're never going to receive the bill because the bill comes when the request has been fulfilled or the purchase order has been completed, okay? So oftentimes when you do receive a shipment slip, right, it will say on it how many items have been shipped out, and then at the bottom it's going to say shipment 1 out of 2 or 1 out of 3, so on and so forth, right? So in this case, it's very crucial that when you do purchase inventory and you do happen to get a split shipment, it's important that you hold on to that packaging slip, okay? Because again, what if later on in the month, right, when you already sent the request that you needed 50 of those items, what happens if they say, I'm so sorry, we don't have it available, we're going to have to do a rain check, or you have two options because you waited so long, you can either cancel the rest of the order or you can go ahead and just we'll refund you whatever you need to refund, okay? So that's going to be an option, or reduce your bill because we couldn't supply you for what you requested. That can happen, right? Rain checks happen all the time, right? You go to the store, they say, I'm sorry, we don't have it available. I'll give you a rain check, and even if you come back to redeem it, you might not be able to get it. But you didn't pay for it necessarily, unless if you did, you'll get a refund for it. But oftentimes that happens due to supply and demand, right? So let's go ahead and take a look here where we're going to go ahead and receive our items from Ogaga Photo Supply. So again, we received it on the 8th of March, okay? And it's going to be for bill number 3883. And this is what happened here. We end up only receiving half of our items for the black picture frames, half of the items for our bronze picture frames, and then for the gray, they gave us all 50 items, okay? Once again, it's stores. That means it's for the amount of $18.99, and it's going to be, you want to make sure you code that this is a partial shipment. Shipment 1 out of 1 or 1 out of 2, whatever it is that they put on their packaging slip, okay? So let's go ahead and locate that purchase order once again. So here's the purchase order, right? For that $2,873. So once again, I'm going to go ahead and take the shortcut here and just copy to a bill. Okay. So now that I have the bill here, I just need to change the date. So in this case, we received it on the 8th, okay, of March. Okay, billing number was 3883, overhead once again. So then let's see here. Now this is where, again, because it copied the information over, it's saying that we received all of our inventory items. If you did not, you're going to go ahead and go over here and you're going to adjust your items that you receive. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say I only received 25 of the black, 25 of the bronze, but I did receive all 50 gray. Okay? Now again, none of these are billable because no one requested for them, so everything looks good. Now again, you want to make sure that you put in your notes that this is, partial shipment. Oh. Partial shipment. Okay. Or if this is package 1 out of 2, whatever it is, and it's for the total amount of the $18.99, like I mentioned, right? Because you only received half of the order. So again, once everything looks good, right, I can go ahead and click Save and Close. Now, because I've received only half my order, how do I know that I have remaining purchase order pending, right? I can simply go here, right? I know that I received one bill, right, for half of the items, right? But in this case, I can locate that purchase order one more time. So the purchase order here, right, for the supplies. Oh, not that one. Purchase order. Okay, so bill payment. Purchase order 103,000. Okay, no, that's not it. Purchase order. Okay, so we're here. Purchase order for $2,873. If I go ahead and click on this purchase order, this is what's going to appear. Your purchase order is going to tell you that, yes, you made the purchase order, but it tells you you received 25 of the black frames and 25 of the bronze frames and 50 of the gray. So in this case, it's telling you that right here, it shows you that your purchase order is a partial purchase order and that you have yet received the rest. Now notice this. You see this check mark here? This check mark says that your purchase order has been closed out and it has been successfully completed, while the other two are still pending for those remaining items that you still haven't received yet. So this is called closing out your purchase orders, okay? Now, in this case, that is what you could do when you look at your purchase orders, is it also is keeping track of whether you received all of your items or not. Okay, so once again, QuickBooks makes it that much more easier to keep track of the items that you purchased. Okay, so there you go. I have those there. Now, another way that you can also be able to see the track record of your purchases, right now that I received my items, I can go to my products and services tab. And what you're going to see here is it has changed because now I have two of them with low quantity, but however, three of them are no longer out of stock. So if I go ahead and take a look and scroll down to my picture frames here, what you're going to notice is my 8.5 by 11 black now has 25 items. My bronze has 25 items and my gray has 50. So again, now that is one of the things you have to remember is that now you see how one simple transaction has affected a lot of other different transactions, right? So in this case, if you remember when we created that inventory part, we linked it to an inventory item. We linked it to income because we can sell the item. And last but not least, we also linked it to a cost of goods sold. So in this case, that is one of the most important things that you have to know. This is one of them where if you delete anything, you make any changes, it affects more than one account. And you have to be very, very careful, right? Because like I said, just me receiving that bill, I've already affected my inventory item. I've already affected my purchase orders, right? And I've already received a liability, right? I owe money now, right? So again, very crucial that you do understand that this is very important that you try not to mess up. Now, of course, you have the ability to edit and modify, but you might get an error code saying that this transaction may affect more than one transaction, okay? So you may get a couple errors there. So you're better off just trying to delete the entire thing if you can as possible, or trying to adjust as many accounts as you can. But in this case, that's just one of them. That is very difficult, right? So there you go. We get to see that just that one purchase order and receiving the items has already recorded it into my products and services list and updated the quantity on hand. Okay. All right. So now that we received my inventory, what happens if I decided to receive my other half of the inventory? So let's say a couple days later, you end up receiving from Ogaga Supplies, okay? And now it's for the 11th of March here, and you get another shipping slip for $3,994. And this time, you only got 15 black and 15 bronze. So again, you didn't get all 25. You end up only getting 15 items of 15 items. So in this case, you received yet another partial shipment, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So once again, I can just go ahead and, if I wanted to, I can just simply go to bill, okay? And if I type in Ogaga supplies, okay, I have a register that will pop up on the right side, and it will say, are you referring to this purchase order? So again, there are multiple ways that you're able to access this. In this case right here, tells me, oh, is this the one I'm looking for the $2,873? Yes, that's the one that we were looking for, that we were pending transactions. So I'm going to go ahead and click add. Now, if I go ahead and add that, check it out. It's going to fill in all the information for me. All I have to do is just change the dates. So again, we received our inventory items on the 11th. The bill number is now 3994. Okay, now this is what's going to happen. It's going to automatically say, oh, I must have received the rest of my shipment. 25 of the black and 25 of my bronze. But we know that's not true, right? Because here, it didn't even put my gray in here because I've already completed that purchase order. So therefore, they're assuming that whatever that you're remaining left is going to pull up in the information here. So again, another way to keep track of the items that you purchased. However, we didn't receive all 25 items. We only received 15. Okay? 15 of the black and 15 of the gray, and then again, another partial shipment. Okay? And it's for that $584, okay? So once again, everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. So again, multiple ways that you're able to access this. And now this should go down lower because now I went over my reorder point, which is 25, right? So now if I scroll down, I should have 40 of the black picture frames, 40 of the bronze, and 50 of the gray. Okay? So, of course, let's say they decide to say, I'm sorry, we're unable to fulfill the rest of your order, so you're going to have to close out your purchase order. So in this case, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to that purchase order, and I'm going to go ahead and select that these items are going to be closed out. So again, if you remember that section where if they tell you that they can no longer, there's rain check, you want to wait. If not, we can just bill you for what we sent you now, and then you can either repurchase it later on in the future. So in this case, if that ever comes to an occurrence, you're just going to go ahead and locate that purchase order once again. I believe it's was a 1002 purchase order for that $2,873. Again, we're going to view it. Okay. And what I can do is, so if I accept that, for instance, that these purchase orders are no longer going to be there, I could go ahead and click close here. Okay. And that means it's going to close off at 40 items. That means you won't be needing the purchase order anymore for Ogaga supplies. And I'm going to go ahead and click save and close. Okay. And then we're going to say yes. Okay. Because we know that we're realistically not going to receive the rest of our items. So that means if I were to go ahead and open that purchase order again, or if I were to go ahead and let's say I received a bill for Ogaga, that purchase order will not show up. So I'll show you right here. So in this case, Ogaga. Okay, Ogaga Photo Supply. Nothing showed up on the right side. Why? Because I already closed that purchase order out, meaning I'm not going to receive anything from Ogaga Supplies anymore. They're closed out. Okay? All right. So now that I closed out my purchase orders, how do I actually sell my inventory, okay? And what we're going to do here is I think I'm going to stop here for a break, and then we'll go ahead and finish up the rest of the lesson when we come back from our break, okay? So right now it is 9:55,